Vrabel wins Coach of the Year, and I think naturally a lot of people look at what he's done in New England and said, how the heck did the Tennessee Titans move on from him? And I'll be honest, I've even said, like, wait, what
Yeah.
happened there in Nashville? Because that's an organization that has gone through GMs and head coaches quite a bit here in this terrible cycle that they are in. Mike Vrabel, I thought, did a hell of a job in Tennessee with what he did with Ryan Tannehill and company and dealing with ownership that exists there. So you have a different perspective on this, though, because you cover the Tennessee Titans when you lived
hmm
in Nashville, and I know you still follow them very, very closely. Is the feeling that Mike Vrabel needed to move on, or that the Tennessee Titans whiffed on this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, has Mike Vrabel done an amazing job in New England? Yes, he has. Did he do an amazing job in Tennessee? He did until he didn't. And, I don't, to me, why did the Tennessee Titans fire Mike Vrabel is the easiest and, quite frankly, the laziest take in sports. But I don't blame people for going there because the Tennessee Titans are probably one of the most boring, uncovered, unfollowed teams in the NFL. Unless you are an actual freak like myself, you would not object yourself to that type of brutal football week in and week out. But I do. And I follow it very closely. And I've got three reasons why Mike Vrabel was let go from the Tennessee Titans. Hindsight is very easy right now. It's very easy to say they never should have let him go. But there was a time that very clearly could. And these three reasons, I think, should provide more context. You still may not agree. In fact, there's a lot of Titans fans that don't agree that they ever should have let him go. And I wasn't ever on the fire Mike Vrabel train. I never once uttered those words. I don't ever utter those words for any coach. But I did understand why they let him go, and I want to try and give that. Starting with the third reason right here, Mike Vrabel has a stubbornness to him and an inability to hire well, and it's hard. It's funny to say that now, given the success that he's had in his first year in New England. But as evident over the time of his Titans tenure, Vrabel always kind of believes he's the smartest man in the room, right? He walks in, and most of the time, I'll give him credit, most of the time he is. But when he's not, it leads to stubbornness. Like when the Titanic hits an iceberg and it starts sinking, he's the guy telling the coal shovelers to keep shoveling. And on top of that, he has a blind spot where he only usually hires, and Josh McDaniels to me really is the only lone exception, and that was probably one of the best hires he's ever made in his tenure as a head coach. But he only ever hires people he knew or previously worked with. And that is true in New England. Right now, there are currently 11 guys on staff that worked under Vrabel in Tennessee, including 7 players on the roster. He does the same thing with roster construction. Guys that he's familiar with, guys that he knows kind of fit his system. Now, look, every coach has that to an extent. I understand that, but it's easy to say that works when things are going well. But it's when things turn bad, like, say, your offense fails to score 30 points for over 3 seasons, which it did under Vrabel's tenure, then that flaw will shine. The number 2 reason, Mike Vrabel was not coaching well at the end of his tenure in Tennessee. People tend to forget that. He was overall, in 6 years in Tennessee, Mike Vrabel only made the playoffs 3 times. In those 3 trips to the playoffs, he only had 2 playoff wins. And both of those came in year 2 in that run that led them to Kansas City, Alex, in the AFC Championship. Now, the next years after that, they lose in the wild card. And then they earn the 1 seed in the AFC, and they lose in the divisional round. But let's take it to 2021 because that was the beginning of the end. The Titans started the year 7-3. They were in first place in the AFC South. They had a 4-game lead in the division with only 7 games left to play in the year. And they lost every single game. Completely missed the playoffs. That was one of the most historic collapses in NFL history. but nobody talks about it because it's the Tennessee Titans, which honestly, as a as a Titans guy, I'm actually kind of glad for that. That's the one time I'm glad that this team doesn't get any attention from the rest of the NFL. But nor does that fit the narrative around Mike Vrabel of him being a great head coach. In the wild card round of the 2019 or 2020 playoffs, when he bested Tom Brady, Tom Brady's final game as a Patriot, he really kind of got one over with Bill Belichick, kind of beat him at his own game. And that kind of gave Mike Vrabel this notoriety of like, wow, he's a really smart head coach. And he is. Don't get me wrong. He's a great head coach. But that narrative kind of led him through even when he was going 6-18 over his final 24 games. For context, Brian Callahan just got fired after going 6-19 in his tenure as a Titans head coach. So you say, why did Vrabel get fired? Well, Vrabel, the team was floundering and he wasn't doing anything to fix it. But the last thing I will say, the number one reason why Mike Vrabel got fired, and everyone forgets this, in Mike Vrabel's final season as head coach, in the Titans bye week, he travels to New England to have his number retired. A great honor. I thought it was so cool to see the head coach of the Titans be honored the way he was, especially after what was kind of like a rough ending. Obviously it brought him to Kansas City, and it was a rough ending in New England. But then he gets his number retired, and while receiving a standing ovation after being introduced, he says this.
Come on, we got a game to win. I can't be up here that long.
Okay, so a little weird right there. That's just the start. A little weird coming from the head coach of an opposing AFC team. But I'll let that slide, okay? It's weird to say we've got a game to win when you're literally employed by another NFL team in the same conference. But then, as he's closing out his 2-minute speech that he gave at halftime of this game, getting his number retired, he says this.
But I also want you not to take this organization for granted. I've been a lot of places. This is a special place with great leadership, great fans, great direction, great coaching. Enjoy it. It's not like this everywhere. Thank you very much.
Feels kind of like an indirect shot at literally every other team, but especially the team that he's currently employed by. Like, if I'm the boss, if I'm Mike Vrabel's boss, like Amy Adams Strunk was, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that. I know a lot of Titans fans. It didn't sit well with them, and that was, I think, week 8 of that season. Still had the rest of the season to play out, and to hear your head coach be like, "Yeah, it's great here, but it sucks where I'm currently working." I mean, and this is in the middle of Gerard Mayo's the first of his 2 4-13 seasons. So to say it was so great, like it was just weird while he's employed by the head coach. Those were kind of like the 3 reasons why I think Mike Vrabel was let go in Tennessee.
So this is interesting. I get a couple of them. There's a few that, from someone that doesn't cover the Titans, feels a little bit of, frankly, a little bit of coping of like, no, it was him, not us kind of thing. I think there's some of that. I'll hear you on. Like, I think the last bit of audio you played, I get why Titans fans wouldn't like that, because you're basically saying, look, where I'm at clearly is not run as well. But also I would say, was he wrong?
It's not run as well.
Was he wrong?
Yeah,
though?
No, he's not.
Right? Like, is he
he's
wrong?
not.
I mean, the Patriots are one of the most stable, first-class type of organizations in sports, period, well run with Robert Kraft. I understand that there was cheating allegations during their success as well, but still, from a organizational perspective, they're extremely well run. And the perception, I can at least say from afar, is that Nashville and the Tennessee Titans, ownership, the general manager hiring back and forth, and some of the decision making throughout the draft has not been great. So I really don't fault Mike Vrabel there. Now, I can't speak to, does he think he's the smartest guy in the room? I would say that probably applies to a lot of head coaches, man. I would say a lot of head coaches bring in people they know. It's something we even discussed here in Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy, once again, going back and just bringing Andy Reid, bringing back Eric Bieniemy instead of going outside his coaching tree. I mean, this is just kind of how the NFL works. We can call it nepotism or whatever. It just kind of is what it is in the league. I think Mike Vrabel, though, the idea, the only part that I really took issue is like the idea that, he's not able to go out and hire the correct people or anything like that. I mean, I think, he very much so has proven even in year one that he has. We'll see how the rest of it goes. I think the quarterback situation in Nashville, while yes, he's the QB, he's the head coach, but he got a number one seed with Ryan Tannehill. Then he had Will Levis as his quarterback, Marcus Mariota as his quarterback, Malik Willis, and then a couple games of Josh Dobbs and Blaine Gabbert. I actually think he overachieved in Tennessee considering the roster restraints that were around him and having multiple general managers.
Well, in those games with Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs starting, that was amidst one of the greatest collapses in NFL history. That was when they had a 7-3 4-game division lead with 7 to play, and they blew it. They couldn't win a single game. If they won one game, if they went 1-6 down that stretch, they make the playoffs for a fourth time in his tenure, and they did not. And I mean, look, roster construction is a big part of it. They had 2 GMs in his tenure there, both Rand Carthon and John Robinson. John Robinson, obviously.
I mean, look at the A.J. Brown trade, man. Look at that, the A.J. Brown trade mess. All of a sudden, that's insane.
It is, but then Mike Vrabel had a hand in the hiring of Rand Carthon, who was let go a little while after Vrabel was, and Vrabel, when he hired Rand Carthon, had more say in the roster construction, and they had an even worse season the following year, going 6-10. So it is. Look, don't get me wrong, the Titans are a very horribly run franchise. I will be the first one to admit that, but Mike Vrabel was not at fault for the lack of success that they had during the last 2.5 seasons of his tenure there.
Over on YouTube, again, you can watch our show here on Westwood One Sports over on YouTube. Blake chiming in, responding to you. He's 100% with you. He says, number one, absolutely spitting truth right now on Vrabel. Dude had so checked out on Tennessee. So there's Blake agreeing with you on your take. I don't know if Blake's a Titans fan as well, but he agrees with you in terms of how that all played out.
The
think
sense was it just got stale.
5 years,
it got stale.
Yeah. And that happens. Like, I mean, it absolutely happens. It's just it's time to move on for everybody. I just think it certainly is tough when you see immediately Vrabel goes to what we do consider a well-run organization and has success. He also has a quarterback, though, in fairness. You know what I mean? Like, he has Drake May, who's runner-up for MVP, whereas in Tennessee, he had Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill was certainly not a bad quarterback, even in Miami. People think he, stunk in Miami and then all of a sudden became a really good quarterback. Like,
he was amazing
good
in
Miami. He was never a top 5 quarterback in the league type of guy, but Ryan Tannehill, the year they had the number 1 seed, as much as Derrick Henry got props, that was a huge part of that was Ryan Tannehill. You go back and look at some of those numbers. He was awesome that year.
And in the year they had the number 1 seed, Derrick Henry missed half the season. That was the one year he was out with injury.
There you go.
And Tannehill, I think you could argue, if not the second greatest quarterback in Titans history. I know it's a kind of a low bar to set, but he played very well. And in that 2019 year that led to the Titans and the Chiefs meeting in the AFC Championship game, Ryan Tannehill was the third best quarterback in football. Again, great thing, but Vrabel defensive guy. I would credit a lot of that to Arthur Smith and the schemes that he had drawn up.
Well, Arthur Smith got a head coach gig because of it. Yeah,
exactly. And the Titans offense failed to do anything after that. And that kind of plays to my point number 2 about Vrabel and his hiring. He not the greatest guy at hiring the positions that need to be filled. But like we said last week, whenever you get a second crack at anything, you always do it better. And you're seeing that this year. And Vrabel's doing a tremendous job with the Patriots and obviously coach of the year for it, and deservingly so.